Welcome to another episode of Platypus Knitting. My name is Bobby Olin and I am a knitter down under in Melbourne, Australia. So this episode I'm going to do things a little bit differently. So first of all, this is just my personal vlog where I come to talk about all of my knitting adventures, the things that I'm seeing and that I'm excited about, the things that I'm working on, and just sharing general knitterly thoughts and experiences. So this episode will be a little bit different to the format that I've done in past episodes because I am going to be doing an unboxing with this lovely package that I've got here. I have never done an unboxing before, and to be honest, I probably only watched like maybe two on YouTube before, so I guess we'll see how that goes. I mean, you just unwrap a box and talk about it, right? So hopefully I have enough to say about the things that I'm pulling out of that. There's a few things in there that I'm excited about. So because of that, I'm going to be skipping a couple of the segments that I usually do, but I will start off with a bit of handy dandy. So as you can see hanging over here, this is the opposite pole cardigan that I have talked about over the last few episodes. I'm not going to discuss that today because I have plans and for discussing it in the next episode, and hopefully it will be finished by then. The only thing that I will say is because I have had to add this extra color just to have enough to knit the body of it, amazingly it seems like that has made the blue yarn stretch far enough that I'm probably going to be able to knit full-length sleeves, which I did not think I was going to be able to do. So for anyone that's new to this cardigan is supposed to be knit in just one color, but I am trying to knit from my stash this year, so I picked this blue color, which is a Bendigo Woolen Mills yarn that I had in my stash, and I thought that I would have enough to knit just the body and do it as a sleeveless vest. But I got to a point where I realized I wouldn't have enough, so I had a bit of a think about it. I looked at what else I had in my stash, and this red color that has been popped in now is the same yarn, again in a color that I already had, and I only had one ball of it, so I thought that could kind of work, and it has worked wonderfully. So that's all I'll say about that one. The main thing that I want to talk about in my handy dandy is this these socks that you saw me just untangling just before in the intro. So this was the first one that I made. This is the Skandium pattern by General Hogbuffer. So it's a really gorgeous pattern that's supposed to graduate from one color into the next color. So it starts off, I've got it starting off in the blue, and then the toe is meant to be all white. Unfortunately, I miscalculated, again knitting from my stash, I miscalculated how much of the white that I had left. So this first one that I've made with this gorgeous color work heel, this is the point where I ran out of the white yarn. So for the second sock, I have gone ahead and done the heel in just the main color. So you can see a little bit more of the pattern here, how it's starting to get more of the white color there. So it is supposed to be pretty solid white by the point that I've knit to, but I've tweaked it slightly so it goes back into having less of the white, so that it's not as much of a shock when it goes back to being just the solid blue color. And I do have a little bit left, but it's definitely not enough to finish the sock completely in that white color. So I did share these on Instagram recently, getting opinions as to which version people thought I should go with, and to be honest, as lovely as this one is, I think this one is just going to work better overall. If that's only half of the foot and the rest of it is blue, I feel like it's going to look a bit unfinished, whereas this one I think could look more finished and make a bit more sense. So you can see here that the top of it, I think in the pattern it's described as the lice section of the pattern, where it's kind of just speckles of the white. I think I'm going to do a few rows of that here and then do the toe bit, so I think that's going to work out well. Plus, this is supposed to be a gift, and even though I wanted it to be a surprise, I have told the gift recipient, my partner Ben, about it, and he, oh sorry, I'm getting tangled, he does like this one as well. And I think since it is losing the whole graduated effect, doing it this way, I really think this way is going to work better. A shame, because this really is such a pretty heel. But anyway, so that's pretty much my handy dandy. I'm going to have to, of course, now tink back all of this up to the heel and do that again. I am also considering, when I re-knit this one, using one needle size smaller than this one here, because it is quite large. It's quite big, and when I first asked about this on Instagram, I was told it'll be fine, it'll shrink up a bit in the wash, but I'm just really worried that it's just going to be too big. As it is on his foot, it kind of just sits around it nicely. There's no negative ease at all. So I am a bit concerned about that. All of his other socks have stretched rather than shrunk, and all of his other socks have not been stranded, so I know that it's different, but I just don't have enough experience with stranded knitting to be confident that it will shrink down to a better fitting size. So the thing is, if I do this one in a smaller needle size than this one and it does fit better, it means that I'm also going to have to rip out this at least up to the start of the gusset and re-knit that as well. So I am doubting that this is going to be ready in time for our anniversary, which is less than a month away. So we shall see how that goes. So that's it for the handy dandy section of this episode. We are now going to skip eye candy, skip craft for thought, and do this unboxing instead. So I am super duper excited about this. I've never had interchangeable knitting needles before, but they've always been something that I've been really curious about. So I thought that I would finally go ahead and splurge and get myself some interchangeable knitting needles. So part of the reason, I should say, this one is coming from Knit Picks. I ordered this from Knit Picks in the US, and the reason that I chose the knitting needles that I'm going to show you here is I have been thinking a lot about ergonomics in my knitting, because as I've mentioned in previous episodes, I have injuries, or I've got pains and discomforts in my arm and in my shoulder, so I want to eliminate those. And I do have a book. I do have Carson Demer's book on knitting. It's called Knitting, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my bookshelf down there, and I can see it. It's Knitting Comfortably, The Ergonomics of Hand Knitting, and I'm still very much just in the introductory chapters of that one, but I'm finding it a really good read. But I am trying to think about ergonomics of knitting, so I wanted to get wooden needles for one thing. I really knit, as you can see here, with these ones and these ones hanging here, I knit with metal needles because they're just a lot smoother and quicker. And I have heard people talk about how wooden needles, it's something about like they have a warmth to them, which is better when you have arthritis. And I'd never sort of really completely understood that, because I was always just like, aren't they just covered in yarn all the time? So how can you even really feel like, how can that really affect, and how can you feel like the temperature of the knitting needles? But over the last few months, I have noticed that there have been times, so we're just coming out of winter here in Australia, and there have been times that I have noticed how cold the knitting needles are. And I do also have paranoia about getting arthritis in my hands, because my mum has issues with that. So that's something that I'm really worried about too. I do have compression gloves that I have unfortunately left in the office and I can't go and get because we're in lockdown at the moment. I have those. I take magnesium and I take fish oil and krill oil, all in an attempt to prevent me getting arthritis. But if I'm doing all of those things, why not, why not just do everything that I possibly can? And if, generally speaking, people out there are saying that wooden knitting needles are better for people who are suffering arthritis, then I should go with wooden ones. So the other factor in me choosing the ones that I've chosen from Knit Picks is the shape of them. So I picked the Foursquare ones because they are square knitting needles and they are not round, and that is supposed to be better for grip. So we shall see how that goes. So this is a pretty big box because A, there are 3 books in here, and B, I really went ahead and splurged. I not only bought the normal size Foursquare interchangeable knitting needles, I went ahead and bought the, I think they call it the short options, don't quote me on that, but basically the ones for socks and hats as well. So I have 2 sets of Foursquare interchangeable knitting needles in here, which I'm a bit excited about. So I will go ahead and unbox with my lovely Swiss Army that I actually got while on holiday in Switzerland. So that one's a bit big. Let's make it a bit safer. Just being wary of not cutting too deep, so I'm not cutting anything. Okay, so pop that down there. So first up in here, there is a slip. So there's the receipt for one thing, but then there's also about returns, information for international customers, and Australia's right there, yay. So that's something for me to look at later. This is just a postcard. Welcome to the Knit Picks family. That's nice. Some packaging. All right, so the first book, Knitting Without Tears by Elizabeth Zimmerman. So I just have heard so much about Elizabeth Zimmerman, which I'm sure any serious knitter wouldn't find a surprise. I have never read any of her stuff. Actually, that's not technically true. I downloaded a preview onto my Kindle of this book? No, I think it's the Knitter's Almanac, actually, that I downloaded a preview of, just to get a taste to see if I liked her writing. And I was going to buy them on the Kindle, but really just having physical books is just so much nicer. And for a knitting book that's going to have patterns and things in it as well, I really wanted to do that. So really looking forward to giving that a read, my first Elizabeth Zimmerman book. So we'll see. I don't want to put it on the floor. I'm gonna have to. So that's one. Oh, look at that. I completely forgot the books that I bought. So surprise, surprise, it's the Knitter's Almanac. So yeah, that's the one that I previewed on my Kindle. Not sure which one I'll read first. I might actually start with the Almanac, but that one is a lovely hardcover commemorative edition. When they come with dust jackets, I always just want to look. Look at that. That's so pretty. Is that? Oh, that's star signs along there. I wonder why. Maybe I'll find out. Anyway, whoop. Let's put that back on nice and safe. Pop that one down a bit more gently there. Now the last book is Noragon, the Knitted Cable source book. I'm super excited about this one. I mean, I'm excited about those other ones too, but I love cables. I love Noragon. I have been eyeing this for a long time. So I am just, look, charts that are color coded. Oh, it's just, I'm just so looking forward to having a good flip through this and just reading all the information that's in here as well. So that's the third book that I have bought. More than 150 stitch patterns. Yay! Anyway, so that's that one there. So now all that's left are my two first ever sets of interchangeable knitting needles. So let me get rid of the box, just toss that over there. So they are, first of all, a gorgeous color wood. It's like purples and blues and greens. And I'm really a winter palette person. I like the cooler colors. I love the blues and greens in particular. So let's open up. I am going to open up, so this one says is the short interchangeable Foursquare needles, and this one is just interchangeable. So I'll pop that one down there, and I'm just going to open up the standard one. It's got instructions on the back for how to assemble, which is excellent. So I'll just, that didn't want to come out. Just rip the plastic, that's fine. Tossing a lot of things on the floor. So be ready for whenever inspiration strikes. This exclusive set includes two 24-inch cables, one 32-inch, one 40-inch, cable keys, etc, etc, etc. Foursquare needles have smooth, flat sides that fit perfectly against your fingers for a comfortable, secure grip. So how to assemble. One is you thread needle tip onto cable, twist to screw together, and then you use the cable key and use that to tighten it. That's simple enough. So it's actually, there's 3 compartments to this little plastic case. So 2 little ones at the back. So one of them, it's got some of the cables in it, and then it's got, what are these? So we have here cable key. I don't know what anything else is. What are these? What are these? Oh, I know what these must be. These must be to screw onto the ends of the cable, so that, kind of like a cable stop. Oh, let's gently. Oh, that's a nice short one there. I like that. So let me just test my theory. Yeah, whoops. I don't know how to screw things on. This is, it's very small. So yeah, I guess so if you've got a needle on one end and you've got the stop there, you can just use them like that instead of a circular needle, just a, I guess you wouldn't really call that a straight, but you'd kind of use that as a straight, and that just stops it from falling off one end. Or I guess you put one on each end when you're, you know, when you're stopping knitting for the day and you just want to keep it there, make sure it doesn't fall off. That's really neat. And I like how wide that is. It's like really easy to grip and to turn, so that is excellent. Just unscrew that. Okay. And the other thing that I have seen people talk about with interchangeable needles, which I'm kind of keen on having a go of, is the little holes that you put the cable keys through are excellent for inserting something like floss so that you can knit your lifeline in as you go. So I'll be really interested on trying that if and when I do another lace project. So I'm just going to pop these stoppers back into this little pouch here. Leave the cable key out, and then this extra bit here looks like it would just be an extender, so that if you had a really long piece of knitting, or if you just wanted to maybe combine two of the smaller ones so that you can match one of the longer sizes, you can just use that to extend. That's pretty handy. Just feeling the connection there. I can feel like a bit of a bump over the connections, but this one is pretty smooth. This one I can feel a bit of a bump, but shouldn't really be too much of a problem. I kind of like as well that with this extender, I can just like, oh, no, I can't because it doesn't twist around. Never mind that. Anyway, that's a really neat extension to have in there. Just unscrewing that now. I'll pop that back in as well. I'm going to leave this little cable out because I'm going to have a play with it. I'll tuck the other one back into the pouch. So the second pouch here, sorry, let me just get this in first before I try to talk at you. I don't want to damage these precious new knitting needles. So, oh goodness. Definitely going to be looking into getting another case for these, but this is obviously fine for now. So I was just going to say that there's one of these little things in each of those two pouches at the back. There is only one of the extension rods, but we've got 8 caps altogether and 2 of the cable, but the tightening things, the cable tightening keys. So I'm gonna left one key out that I already nearly lost just then, but I'm going to leave it out because I'm going to have a bit of a play. So let's put the ones that I'm not using back into the case. I mean, I do like that with the plastic ones you can very clearly see what's in here, but I think it will just feel much nicer to have like a fabric or a leather or a faux leather case for them. So the front pouch has the gorgeous, gorgeous needles, and they're all labeled at the front here. So it goes from 3.5 to 8 millimeter. I'm just going to pull out the 3.5s. Pop that down there. And I wish I had a ruler because I'm really bad at judging size. What would you say that is, like 10 centimeters or something? I mean, it would be on their website, but that is pretty smooth, that connection there. That's pretty smooth and nice. And the squares they've got pretty smooth corners as well. Like they don't really feel super square. I mean, maybe it's because these are the smaller ones. Let me just quickly pull out the bigger size, the 8 millimeter. I don't think I own any 8mm needles, so this is my first set of those. Oh, they are so beautiful. Just look at how pretty that wood is. It's gorgeous. But yeah, the corners are really, really smooth, and it's a really, really smooth wood as well. Oh, I'm so excited about these. And I have only just realized as well, looking at this one, there's no way you're going to see that on the camera, but on the metal here, they've got the needle size, so it says both 11 and 8mm, so that you can see the US size and the metric. I always go by metric, but that's still pretty handy to have for, I guess, all of those times when patterns might only give the size for the US. So I'll pop that 8mm one back there. It's so beautiful. So looking at the tips, just gonna gently pull this. They're sharper than I was expecting, which is really, really excellent because I'm used to fairly sharp needles. So I am going to attach this now. You can see the very, very faint tiny 4 and 3.5 on the metal bit like I mentioned before. So screwing that on. So if I stick that in, then it just gives me that extra bit of, I mean, I can't even feel that that did tighten it any further, but it just gives me that extra bit of leverage to make sure it's on there. And that is a really smooth connection. That's really smooth right there. Beautiful. Okay. Now, the other one. Screw, 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 screw. Okay. So getting the key in that tiny hole. Woo! Dropped the key. Key fell out. Give that a twist, an extra little twist. Okay, and now I'm just going to pop my key back in here. So now that I have a set of knitting needles made up, I am going to give them a go. So one thing that I also received recently is I'm been very interested in trying other sheep breeds other than merino, because I'm pretty sure I've only worked with merino. At least all the yarns that that I've bought have either said merino or just 100% wool, which I've always just kind of assumed was merino anyway, who knows. But anyway, I've been interested in trying other sheep breeds. So I recently ordered a bunch of mini skeins from Tandy in their, they were the first breeders of the Polworth sheep breed. It's been family owned for forever and ever. It's, I don't know exactly, but I just ordered a bunch of, oh no, one fell out of the bag. We'll get that in a sec. Some of their mini skeins so that I can try them out. So I've got here, I bought 4 8-plies and 4 4-plies, and they are just beautifully soft, and I love the colors. This one here in particular, it's called Mallard. It's a new color that they've come out with this year, and it is so me. It is just it's just me. I love it. It's such a beautiful color. This yellow one is Persimmon. This red one is, I think it's Cider House Red, and then this one is a Natural Taupe. So the 4th color that I bought is this one here, which is called Char. And I did actually already knit one swatch in the 4-ply. There, so fine and so pretty. Anyway, this one I knit up on my knitting machine. and it's just so beautiful. But I kind of just wanted to see what kind of gauge I can get with that on my knitting machine. So that has been blocked, and I've got a little card here just noting on the knitting machine the gauge that I used on the machine, what the yarn is. I cast on 30 stitches, knit 50 rows, and then cast off. Yeah, so that's that one there. And I think it's about, I knit this on the loosest gauge on my knitting machine, and I think it is 26 stitches to 10 centimeters. So that's that one there. But I had been, I just dropped the little ball. I had been waiting to knit them using needles until these arrived, because when I actually knit a garment with this, I wanted to use my new knitting needles. So I didn't want to do any test swatches in the other ones that I've got. So these mini skeins are 10 grams. This, whoopsies, this swatch used 6. So I have 4 grams left of that 4-ply in char, and I'm just going to go ahead right now and cast it on and see how that goes. Bear with me. Okay, so I'm going to cast on 20 stitches, and my go-to cast on is I believe it is Tilly Buddy's very stretchy cast on. So I'll just do it quickly here. 2, 4, so smooth. 6. To say I'm not used to cables this short. I'm not really sure what you'd use. I guess that's a hat, but it just, it kind of feels like the cable is a bit short for the length of the knitting needles at the moment. Oops. But maybe that's just with the angle that I'm working with as I am doing this cast on, because they need to get the stitch onto that left needle. I am making them almost parallel to each other, which is not how you knit. So maybe that's why. And because I've been talking, I haven't been keeping track of how many I have cast on, but obviously my swatch isn't going to be as big as that one there, although I do have almost as much yarn. So let's see how much I have cast on now. Right now these needles just feel so smooth and nice. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. I'll do 26 because I do have less than that, so I don't want to cast on the full 30. Oh, yeah, 26 will do. And in my previous episode, I did talk about how I am learning lever knitting, but I think for this one, I am just going to go ahead and do my usual continental. Alrighty, so I have just gone and knit 4 rows of garter stitch to start off my swatch, there it is. There, looks a bit sloppy at the moment, but these needles are so smooth, so much smoother than I was expecting from wood. They do actually, I can actually tell the difference in, they actually really do feel softer. I can feel that they feel softer in my hand, and just not having the cold of the metal, it's just really good. And this is a really short swatch, so I wasn't really going over any of the joins here, so I'm just doing a little slidey, and I can kind of feel that it's catching, probably just on this bit here where the cable joins the metal bit, but it doesn't feel like it's catching in a way that is actually gonna like tug or pull at the yarn. It's just that I can feel it going over the little tiny bump that's there. I don't think that's actually going to get in the way at all. So you can see when I'm pulling, it's not. It's actually catching a tiny bit more here than it is here, even though to my fingers this bit feels a lot smoother than that bit. So that's interesting. But still, I don't think that's really going to be a problem. It does all feel incredibly smooth. So the only thing that I will say about these that I am just the tiniest bit concerned about, but I'm also not too worried, is just the cables themselves. I feel like, because they are plastic, they have that memory of, you know, being in a tight little circle like that. And if I hold it stretched like this, I can see all the little kinks in the plastic. And obviously those kinks aren't going to impact how I am knitting, but you can also already see that if I turn it that way, it wants to bend that way. It doesn't want to bend backwards the other way. So yeah, I'll just have to see, because I do have, like those needles, for example, they have started to bend. The cable really like bends right at the joint, so I'll have to see if these do that as well. And if they do, I'm gonna have to look up, I've seen, or I've heard people talking about gently boiling their cables just to get rid of all of those kinks and soften them a bit. So I might have to look into that, but I really don't want to have to do that. So I'm going to try just using these for a while and see how they go. But overall, I'm loving them so far. They are warm, they are soft, and they are smooth. The colors are exactly my colors, so that's kind of perfect. I'm not feeling the sharp corners of the squares, and they do feel pretty good in the hand. So I will finish the rest of that swatch in stockinette stitch once I'm done filming this episode. I do just want to have just another really quick look comparing the two. So like I had said, the normal options set goes from 3.5 to 8mm. The shorty set, oh, they're so cute. The shorty set also goes from, well, it also starts at 3.5 and it goes to 6. So I'm not going to be able to use them for like socks like this, for instance, but hats and things, or you know, socks that are in DK or a thicker yarn, for sure I'll be able to use those ones. I'm just gonna pull out, so I need to open this first. Okay. Oopsies. So again, it's got the pouch, the long pouch at the front that holds the needles. It's got the two pouches at the back that each side has, I can see one extension thing, I can see just one cable key, and 4 of the stops. So I'm just going to pull out for comparison. So that's one of the tiny cables for that one, and then the cable that I used was the shorter. Yeah, there you go, goes up to there. So what would be interesting to see is if I am using this cable that comes with the longer needle tips and finding that the longer needle tips don't quite feel right, I should be able to interchange for shorter needle tips in this case, which is, you know, part of the reason why I wanted to get the 2 different sets so that I could play around with those. So the thing is, I am very much not going to be used to pulling out the 4.5. Oh, they are so small. They're so tiny. Oh my gosh, how am I gonna, and I have small hands. I wonder how I'm gonna go holding those and not, you know, being able to like grip with the rest of my hand the needles there. So that's going to be really interesting. Gosh, I wish I had some yarn already that I could test these out on. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Just to test my theory, I'm going to pull out the cable from the bigger set, the other short one, and I'm just going to screw in. And of course, yep, screws in perfectly because it's a matching set. What have I got? What have I got sitting around me? All right. Let's get some of this scrap that I was showing in my other episode. Pull out this messy ball. This is Lion brand yarns cotton bamboo that is left over from another project. So I kind of just want to see how I go with holding. I mean, that is a much more decent length now that it's got, you know, the extra little bit of the straight part thanks to the connecting bit of the cable. So I actually think that's not going to be as much of a concern, the length of the needle, as I was afraid that it would be. So let's just quickly, whoop, if I can make this. What am I doing wrong? I have forgotten. I haven't set it up properly. Yeah. All right, I'll just quickly cast on like 10 or something because I just want to get a feel for the length of these needles. And I guess it's also going to be seeing how it works with this different yarn, this different fiber makeup. So just to have a quick go, that is probably enough there. Alrighty, that again is just 4 really quick rows of garter stitch in this cotton bamboo yarn. Gosh, garter stitch, or at least my garter stitch, just looks a bit sloppy, doesn't it? Anyway, just as smooth, and the needle lengths are perfectly fine. Interestingly, I did not use the cable key, and I can see that it has started untwisting there as I've worked. So that's why, even though you can't tell that the cable key is doing anything, that is why you do want to use the cable key there. But this was just the test, so I am not fussed about that. But those needle tips are perfectly comfortable, which is excellent. I was concerned at the start that it wasn't as smooth as my previous test. but I think that really is the yarn. It kind of almost feels to me like it has a like some kind of coating to it that just is making it a bit stickier rather than slicker. But once I had done the first row, it was all smooth from then, so that's really great. So those are my interchangeable needles, which I am really excited about using, and I can't wait. I can't wait to get going on a new project, because I'm not going to switch to them in the middle of another project where I've been using another kind of needles. So I'm really excited about starting something new where I can just fully use these new needles. So super duper excited about that. The last thing that I just want to look at is, because I am just curious, I just want to see how long the other cables are in this set, because I do tend to go for really long cables. So this is the longest one here, and I like that. Yes, I do like that. Yeah, I like my long cables, so that is lovely. Yeah, so I guess that's the end of my very long, kind of messy unboxing there. I guess I do want to close off with a Heartful of Craft, where I just say one thing that I am grateful for in the past few weeks to do with my knitting and crafting experiences. So this time I am super grateful for delivery services, postal workers, all of that kind of thing, especially in lockdowns, and everyone is just mailing things a lot more, so I know that there are a lot more delays, and of course the post industry is impacted by lockdowns too, so they're having to struggle through all of the restrictions that imposes on them. So I'm very grateful that they are all still working hard so that we can all get our packages. I purchased this from Knit Picks in the US, I think at the start of August, and it took about 3 weeks for them to arrive, maybe a bit longer, which was actually quicker than I was expecting considering the times that we're in. So I am incredibly grateful for all the various delivery services around the world, especially in Australia, just working really hard and getting us our deliveries. So I'm grateful to you, and thank you very much. That is it for this slightly different episode of Platypus Knitting. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully the next episode will come out in another 3 to 4 weeks. Thank you so long, and knit on.